In this video, I will tell you what you need to do to get big. If you want to get big muscles, stay tuned and watch to the end, because I will break down everything that you need to know and what you have to do to build that size. All right. So for everyone that's a skinny guy and you want to put on size, you want to put on muscle, stay tuned. So listen, if you actually do these things, it has to work, right? And people ask me all the time, man, you got big. Like, how do you put on that size, man? I want to get big like you. Well, I tell them, look, you got to eat. But how much can I really sit down and break down to them what they have to do, you know, when they're talking to me at the gym or, you know, passing by or whatever, right? So I got so many questions. So I decided, you know what, let me make videos on how to do it, on what I've been doing and what I'm still doing to this day. And later on, I'll show you some, you know, photos of me when I was skinny. Right now I'm at 220, 222, around there. So I put on a lot of size, and I didn't do all this crazy counting your calories, your macros and all this stuff. I mean, you could get into all of that, but at the end of the day, it's really simple principles that you have to follow and you have to stick with them. And that's what we're gonna get into. All right. So the goal is size. All right. You wanna get big. Okay. How do you put on size? Well, we all know you have to work out, okay? And you have to take protein, and we hear that all the time. Protein, protein, protein. Well, it's actually three things, and it's not just protein that you have to make sure that you're consistent with. It's actually three things, okay? We all know working out, right? So train, and I'm actually gonna make a triangle, right? Training, eating, and rest. Okay. So obviously these are very simple concepts. We all know this: training, eating, and rest. Okay. However, I know the skinny guy's issue, because I was a skinny guy and I know exactly what you're going through. The hardest one for me was this part: eating. Training, working out is not too hard, okay? And I know, you know, you go to the gym, you lift weights, you do your thing. I mean, it's easy to work out. But eating consistently was so hard because you're not hungry. You don't eat that much. Well, I'll tell you what the secret is to get this, you know, to get eating corrected, okay? So we'll break it down, you know, one at a time. So obviously, if you're taking notes, you got to do the training, eating, and rest. All three has to be on point, because if not, if your rest is off, and we'll get into that, forget about it. If you're not eating, of course, you're not going to gain size. And training, even though I said it was easy, you still have to kind of know how to train, and we'll kind of get into it as well. So let me clean up this board. And I'll try my best to be right on point. You can get, you know, we can get really in depth, you know, with this stuff, but let's keep it simple, right? And as I was preparing for this video, you know, I try to cut out a lot of fluff. I try to cut out a lot of noise. Because when you look on you know, on YouTube and online, you see so many people talking about scientific this, scientific that. Yes, all that stuff is important, but at the end of the day, it's really you being consistent. It's really you doing what you're supposed to do day in and day out. When you don't feel like it, when you're tired, when you don't feel like going to the gym. Sometimes I don't feel like eating, but like I said, there's a way to kind of fix that. All right. So the first thing we'll talk about, we'll start with eating, right? Now I saw some videos on YouTube where I'm not gonna put the guy on blast, but basically I saw a video of this kid talking about how to put on size. And everybody's body type is different, and I get it. This guy was, to me, he was pretty skinny and small, but he was trying to tell other skinny guys how to get big, but he wasn't big. So, I don't know. And some of the stuff he said, it was good stuff that he put, you know, in his video, but there were some things I didn't agree with, all right? One of the things he mentioned was calories, all right? And he was saying, oh, he wants to eat 1,000 calories a day. Okay, you could put on 1,000 calories a day, but it's very hard to do that. And he was saying one of the ways that he actually was able to eat 1,000 calories was start eating junk, like eating pizza, eating whatever, just whatever he could throw, you know, put down, he was eating it. And the issue with that is what you put in is what you get out. So if you put in garbage, you're gonna get garbage out, right? And I don't know how many of you guys you know, if you go work out and you're trying to lift heavy, you need energy, you need power. And if you're going in there sloppy, you're feeling weak, you're not amped up, you're not pumped, you're not ready to go, your performance is gonna suck, right? You're not gonna be able to lift as much as you could if you had a good diet, right? And we don't have to get into this crazy diet. The three things that you wanna focus on, right, as you eat. Is fats, carbs, and protein. Okay, and we'll put healthy fats because I want to make that clear. Healthy fats, carbs, protein. Again, these are, I guess you can say, a pyramid, or the three things. So just like sleep, rest, and training, even in the eating category, you need three things. And I'll tell you right away why all three are important and you need all three. Protein is the simplest. We know that. This is what we need to build the muscle. Easy enough. Carbs, yeah, we know about, oh, eat carbs because that gives you energy. Well, carbs help your muscles to have glycogen, right? Glycogen is what gives your muscles the energy that it needs for you to lift heavy, right? Not only that, but carbs also put your body in an anabolic state, which is actually an environment that allows your body to grow. It gives your body a great, healthy environment to promote growth, okay? So carbs is what is actually necessary for your body to not only have glycogen stores for energy, but it also prepares your body's environment to prepare to grow as well, okay? Healthy fats. Healthy fats are very important because they actually promote hormone, right? Healthy fats actually help your body to produce muscles because healthy fats actually help you to build testosterone in your body, okay? And those are growth hormones that you also need that promotes muscle growth. All three are necessary in order for you to optimize your body and give your body the best optimal environment for you to grow, okay? And that's just getting like a little bit deep into it, but not getting too deep into it, because at the end of the day, you don't really have to get any more deeper than that unless you're into like biology and how your body works and you want to get into the chemistry aspect of, you know, how the muscle synthesis breakdown and all that. If you want to do that, be my guest. But for me, the goal here is to put on size, and I'm telling you exactly how. All right. So your meals, when you eat your food, you want to make sure that you have healthy fats, carbs, and protein. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the description an example of what that looks like, at least for me, right? And you can follow it, you know, and you could easily Google search and research what are good healthy fats, carbs, and obviously protein powder. I mean, everybody knows what protein powder is, so. All right. So we got the food or eating down. Now, okay, so we're gonna have healthy fats, carbs, protein. Okay, I get it. I have to have that in my meals, okay? But then you still haven't told me about how to make eating easier. Well, the reality is, in the beginning, you're not gonna eat a lot, and that's a given. If you're a skinny guy, your metabolism is extremely fast. You're not gonna eat a lot. You might eat more frequently here and there. You might nibble on things, but your body is not really accustomed to building. You're not putting your body in a state of building and growing, okay? You're just eating just to maintain whatever weight that you're at. So, how do you start eating more? Well, you're not gonna be able to eat more until you cause your body to actually want more food. The answer to that is through training, right? So the training, okay, working out. We said working out is easy, or I said working out was easy, all right? All right, so lifting weights, we know you can lift weights to be a power lifter, and you can lift weights to be a bodybuilder. So let's break it down, okay, training. You could train for power, and you can also train for mass, right? And you could put bodybuilder. All right. Me personally, I don't consider myself like the strongest guy. I know I can lift pretty heavy because I built myself up to be able to lift heavy. But if your goal at the end of the day is to put on mass, you have to make that distinction. Well, how should I train? Should I train for power? Should I train for mass? Because there's people that are gigantic and huge, but they're not that strong. And then I've seen guys that are half my size lift and bench, squat, deadlift way more than me, right? Because they train for that. Some people are naturally strong, and I know that, you know, some people are beasts, some people are monsters, and they're just naturally strong. But if you actually go into the gym and your goal is to put on size, you have to know how to work out so that you can actually put on the mass or put on or get power, right? So I like to kind of mix it up and do both. What I would recommend, right, to get mass is find out whatever your maximum weight is, the maximum weight that you can lift or pull, depending on the exercise that you're doing. And I would say, and you can look this up, and you kind of see it everywhere. But for me, I say 70 to 80% of your max. Okay? 70 to 80% of your max. Now, technically, I know I put that under the mass size, or mass side, I should say, but it should actually be, this is actually under here as well for power. The reason why you want to lift 70 to 80% of your maximum is because when you train heavy, right, what you're doing is you're actually triggering your nervous system. You're triggering your nervous system to recruit more muscle. You're telling your body to say, look, I'm lifting heavy. I need to recruit more muscle. I need to have bigger muscles in order to compensate for this heavy weight that I'm trying to push or pull, right? That's gonna tell your body or signal your body to grow, right? I need to grow because I have to lift this heavy weight, okay? So what I do is I initially do that, right? So if I go to my gym and I work out, I would warm up, of course. And then once I warm up, I would immediately go to my 70 to 80% of the max. And I would do, for example, I would do maybe 2 or 3 sets of those on a particular exercise, like dumbbell presses for my chest, as an example. And then I would jump to 1 or 2 other exercises, like a machine fly, you know, for the chest, or a machine press, right, for the chest. After I do the 70 to 80% max on those exercises, then I would jump to one of those machines, and then I would do a hypertrophy style of So technically I should have put this on this side. Let me actually just do that so I don't confuse you. So like I said, bear with me. I'm not gonna edit any of this out. I'm gonna try to be as raw as possible, and hopefully, you know, I'll get better, you know, as I make more videos. But my goal is just to tell you what everything is and try to keep it as simple as possible so that you can just do it, right? All this information will just go over your head if you don't apply it. So my goal is to tell you exactly what it is that you need to know, and then just go ahead and go straight into it and apply it. Otherwise, it's just gonna go over and you're not gonna get the gains that you want. So, all right. I think I spelled that wrong. I don't know, hypertrophy. Whatever, if I spelled it wrong, whatever. But hypertrophy workout, right? And what I would do there is I may decrease to maybe 50% to 60% of my max. Eccentric. Again, forgive me for my spelling. 50% to 60% of my max, and I would focus on the eccentric. And that's basically going slow, controlling the weight. See a lot of guys going into the gym and they're just throwing weight around, dropping the weights, you know, flinging the weights. Other than ego, there's no point in doing that, right? Hypertrophy is the amount of tension, the amount of time you spend where that muscle is under constant load or tension, right? So if I'm doing a barbell curl, or, you know, curl or dumbbell curl or whatever, instead of just flinging it up and then just dropping it, obviously as you're going slowly down, you're holding that weight, you're controlling that weight. And so that load that you're putting on the muscle, and the amount of time that that muscle is under that tension is actually going to stimulate growth. It's going to stimulate that muscle to grow. And that's how you want to train. Okay. And that's pretty much it. That's what you want to focus on and understand. Okay, why should I lift 70 to 80% max? Because you're shocking your nervous system to say, grow, right? That's the purpose of it. Now, on the flip side, if you want to be a power lifter, right? There's actually a workout routine where you're always doing maximum or close to maximum reps. Maximum weight, but very low reps, right? Because what you're training is you're training for your nervous system to be able to handle, or you're telling your nervous system, look, I need you to be able to handle pushing this weight, or, you know, pulling this weight. And when you do that, you're training your body for power. You're not really training your body for mass. Okay, so if you're going in the gym lifting heavy all the time, you will get stronger, right? Given that you train correctly and don't injure yourself, but you may not necessarily grow. Okay, you're not optimizing for growth. You're not actually making that muscle bigger. You're not training it for that. Okay, and not only that, when you power lift, if you're going to power lift, you definitely have to get that eating, down pat, the eating that we just talked about earlier. Okay, same thing with the mass. There's no difference. The only difference is how you're going to eat, because eating, you always have to have the energy in order for you to be able to work out effectively, right? If you go into the gym with low energy, well, you're not going to get the best workout. And if you're not getting the best workout, you're leaving gains on the table. Okay. All right. So that was kind of like a basic rundown on the training aspect, okay, out of the three things that we just talked about. All right, so what's next? Well, we talked about eating, we talked about training. Now we're going to talk about the part that a lot of people kind of don't really talk too much about, right? and that's the sleep or the rest. All right, in particular, it's sleep. Believe it or not, when I first started, as I said in the beginning of this video, that the hardest thing for me was eating. And the hardest thing for most skinny guys who's trying to put on mass and get big is eating, okay? Now, we just talked about training. The training is what's gonna allow you to eat more, okay? If you go into the gym and you kind of goof around, you don't really get the effective workout that you need, you don't go in there and put your body through the ringer. Not saying go in there and get hurt, but go in there and really train and focus and lock down on what you need to do. Don't worry about other guys in the gym. There will always be somebody bigger and stronger. You go in there and you focus on your workout, you focus on your training. Make sure that you're pushing the 70 to 80% to get the shock for your nervous system. Then you work it out, meaning fatigue that muscle, do the eccentric movements, tire that muscle out, okay? Once you do that, you got your complete training. You put the load in there and you put the hypertrophy training in there. You put the time under tension in there, okay? That expenditure of energy, right? That's gonna cause you to use a lot of energy. And as you expend a lot of energy, your body's gonna definitely say, I need food, right? That's gonna make your appetite increase. That's gonna bring that hunger. That's gonna drive that hunger because you've depleted all that energy, right? That you've hopefully, accumulated and stored up through eating the day before you train, okay? So that's how you're gonna actually increase your eating. So as you continue to train like that, what's gonna happen is you're gonna grow, right? You're gonna get stronger. So as you, for example, if you're curling only 40 pounds, and as you're continuing with your training, you're gonna eventually get to 45, 50, and you're gonna gradually move up, right? As you're gradually moving up, the demand for resources and energy is gonna go up. Because your body's gonna request more fuel, more energy, because in order to press or, lift more weights, you need more energy, more strength, right? So your appetite is eventually gonna go up. So don't worry too much in the beginning about, man, I gotta eat all this food, I'm not eating enough. You're not gonna be able to, because your body don't really need it. So you're just gonna stuff yourself, you're gonna sit there and be like, oh, I can't eat no more. And that's the same way I was. But as you stick with your training and you stay consistent, your hunger is gonna go up, all right? And that's how you make sure that you stay consistent, okay? All right, so sleep. Okay, you heard it, sleep is important. Why? Well, when you sleep, that's when your muscle recovers, okay? I'm not a fan of steroids. I have never taken steroids in my life. I'm actually against it. Me personally, I don't bash anyone for doing steroids. Let's get that straight. It's your choice, what you want to do with your body. But for me personally, I believe in all natural. I'm actually more excited to see what my limit is and what I can do naturally. What my body's capable of doing naturally. And I would encourage you to be natural, right? So you can actually see, where your body can, how far your body can go. Your body is actually an amazing machine. If you train and stay consistent, you will be able to do great things. But if you don't try, you'll never know. So sleep equals recovers. Okay, recovery. Okay. If you don't sleep, I say around 7 to 8 hours a night, you're not going to grow, right? And that was one of my issues. When I first started lifting weights, I stayed at a particular weight for so long. I could never get, so like I'm 220 now, and I never got past I never hit 200. I was always around 190. I'm about 6 foot. and I've been working out most of my life, but I've never been consistent. You know, I was always a skinny guy. I was always around 165, 170, around there. And I could never get, I mean, when I got into weightlifting and I was just lifting like crazy, I got to about 193, 192, and I could never pass 200. And if I look back and think about the things that I did wrong, the thing that stuck out the most, besides the eating part, was sleep. I didn't give my body a chance to actually build the muscle. Because what happens is, if you don't sleep and you stay up, so if you stay up playing video games, watching TV, just whatever, hanging out, chilling, and all that work you put in, all that eating you're doing, all that workout you're doing, and then you're not giving your body that time it needs to do the repairs, you just wasted all your time. You just wasted all those, you know, all that stuff that you just did. Because when you sleep, your body actually releases GH, growth hormones, okay? Not only growth hormones, testosterone, which is very important for man or men, right? These are all components of muscle building in your body, right? These are all the things that your body needs to grow and maximize gains, especially when you're building muscle, right? If you don't sleep, you're actually decreasing your growth hormones. Your testosterone actually decreases, and something bad happens. And we all know, if you don't sleep, you know, I don't want to get too much into that, but I'm just kind of giving you the main reasons why you're not getting the size. If you don't get enough sleep, you're going to end up getting more stress. Stress will raise your cortisol, okay, which is the stress hormone, right? Cortisol is your enemy, because this will attack your size, okay? Not only that, you don't get enough sleep. When you go to the gym, you're gonna feel weak. You're not gonna have the energy, you're not gonna have the strength to be able to lift that 70 to 80% max that you need to do to shock your nervous system, to tell your body to grow, right? And you're not gonna get in there and do the effective workout that you need to build the muscles that you wanna build, okay? So that, as well as eating and working out, all plays as one unit, right? It all goes into one giant process that you can't do without. You can't do one without the other. You have to have all three on lockdown in order for you to gain the muscle mass that you desire, okay? So for me personally, when I told myself, okay, I know I got to do 3 things, and nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, right? This video, it probably sucks. I'm not the best speaker either, but I just want to tell you exactly what you need to know so that you can put on the size. I guarantee you, if you do this, you will put on size. How do I know this? Well, because I put on size, right? I'm literally sitting at, like I said, about 220. Of course, you fluctuate with water weight. So the heaviest I've ever been was 224. I got up to 224, and, you know, depending on, you know, the water weight and things like that fluctuate. So I'm sitting at 220. My goal is to see if I can push myself to get to, I want to say, I know I'm going to get to 230 pretty soon, at the rate that I'm going. My goal is to get to like 250, and I'm 250, pretty massive, right? I think it's pretty big, and I've already came a pretty long way. And I felt like, you know what? I used to do a lot of personal training, and I used to train a lot of people. And the biggest issue that, especially the skinny guys, right, that they always run into is consistency. And that's very general. Consistency, yeah, you need consistency. What? Oh, you gotta consistently train. Yeah, man, you gotta keep working out. You gotta take all this protein. 1 gram of protein for your body weight. You know, for me personally, I don't even take as much protein. I don't even do 1 gram of protein per body weight. Okay, what I focus on is making sure that I eat the food that I need to eat, the healthy fats, the carbs, and the protein. I make sure I have all three. And I'll make some other videos on getting a little bit more into that stuff, because there's other things that I also do, like take magnesium for better sleep, and that also helps with muscle recovery and muscle relaxation as well. I also take multivitamins to make sure I have zinc, vitamin D, and all those other important vitamins that your body needs, because I want to make sure that you have all of the vitamins and all the nutrients that your body needs to optimize growth. So you have to give your body what it needs to maximize the growth. It's not just going into the gym and just pumping some iron and then, flexing like this in the mirror and thinking you're going to get big, because I see a lot of guys doing that, which is cool, but you ain't going to grow unless you do those three things that we talked about. So in the beginning, I said, make sure you eat, make sure you sleep, and focus on the training, and make sure you do the right training. And I know in the beginning I said, this guy was saying, oh, eat whatever you want. You can eat whatever you want, but if you put garbage in your body, you're going to get garbage out. If you eat pizza and all that junk food, especially sugar, right? You're going to kill that energy, right? You're going to crash. You're not going to really get that energy that you need when you need it. When you go to the gym and you have to work out, you have to perform, you have to put in that work, you're not going to feel the best. You're going to feel sluggish. You're going to feel tired. Matter of fact, you won't even feel motivated to wake up. You might not even wake up. All right, you might be late. You might wake up late, feel sluggish, and it's just, why do that to yourself, right? Let me make sure I didn't leave anything out. Oh, okay, yeah. Forgive me for the little, dragginess if I'm dragging here a little bit. Okay, so somebody said, okay, yo, Donnie, it's so hard for me to eat. How can I stay consistent, right? All right, so you got the sleep down, you got the training down, but the eating, I can't eat, man. It's so hard to eat. I don't even know what to eat. Well, and it's so funny because I heard, we all know about meal prepping. All right, meal prepping is not easy. You got to cook all this food for the week. Some people meal prep for 1 week, 2 weeks. I used to do all the meal prepping for like 2 weeks at a time, and it got real tedious, and it's not easy, and food is expensive too. So, especially when you're eating a lot, it gets real expensive. So it's like, man, not only that, I got to cook, I don't even know how to cook and things like that. So this is what I recommend you do. For 1 week, eat the same thing. Once you decide on your healthy fats, right? I'll say H fats, right? For healthy fats, your carbs. Now, when I say carbs, obviously there's bad carbs and good carbs. We know that, all right? And again, I'll put in the description the stuff that I eat so you can actually mimic it if you want. Take it, use it. Do the same thing. Protein. Now, one thing about protein, I'll give you a little pro tip about protein. When you start eating a lot of chicken, when you start eating a lot of beef, from time to time I eat pork, but I eat fish and stuff like that as well as protein sources. But when you eat like a lot of chicken and stuff like that as your protein source, you get sick of it, especially if you're eating the same thing every day, right? And it'll get to the point where you just shoving food in your mouth, and you're like, I can't put any more food in my mouth. I can't eat anymore. Protein will make you feel like that. When you eat too much protein, it will make you feel almost like, I guess you want to call it like a crash, like I'm done, I'm done, bro. I can't eat anymore. What I would recommend is when you get stuck, let's say you're eating chicken, rice, and broccoli. Or if you don't want to eat the rice, let's say chicken, sweet potatoes, and broccoli, right? And personally, chicken breast has the most protein, it's great, but it's too dry for me, man. I can't be eating no chicken breast. So I'll be using chicken thighs, chicken tenders, or chicken legs, drumsticks. And I'm eating that for a week, right? Same thing for 1 week. And on the third, fourth day, I'm eating that. I'm like, oh, I can't eat anymore. Well, worst comes to worst, if you can't eat the chicken, don't eat the chicken. At the bare minimum, make sure you get the healthy fats and carbs, because it's a lot easier, believe it or not, at least for me it is, to eat the healthy fats and the carbs than chugging down or scarfing down protein. And the reason why I say that is because eating chicken like that, day after day after day, the same thing, yeah, we all know it's tiring, right? Of course, I take protein shakes, whey protein. And a lot of times what you can do is you can kind of interchange, at the same time supplement your meals with the protein shakes, of course, right? To get your protein intake. So what I'll do is if I can't, I'll eat a little bit of chicken, and then I'll make sure that I eat the healthy fats and carbs. And mind you, when I eat my meal, I don't weigh it. I don't weigh my food. I don't do none of that. All I do is I make sure that I eat on schedule and I eat consistently. And what will happen, like I said, is as you grow, as you get stronger, and as you progress in your workouts, your hunger and your appetite is going to go up. So what you can start doing is scheduling out when to eat what, right? So I'll give you an example here. Morning, lunch, and dinner, right? And there's some in-between times, which I'll do this. So I'll give you an example of how I do it. And I'm not saying this is the best way. This is what worked for me. In the morning, when I wake up, I usually don't feel like eating nothing. So what I do is I make a protein shake, right? And in my protein shake, I add a banana, I add peanut butter, I add whey protein that's plain, no flavor. I add a little bit of maple syrup. I add a little bit of cacao nibs. And then I put some ice cubes in there and I blend it up. And I also put a little creatine in there and I blend it up and I drink it, right? That's what I drink before, in the morning, before I go work out. After my workout, I have a 3-hour window that I want to make sure within the 3 hours of completing my workout, I make sure that I eat, for example, 2 eggs, toast, and maybe a sausage patty. So 2 eggs, sausage patty, and a 1 toast. 3 hours, within 3 hours after my workout in the morning, okay? Then, in between my morning, which I would just, breakfast, like I just mentioned, and lunch, I would have another protein shake. Okay? Or PB&J sandwich. No, I can't show a sandwich. I would either have a protein shake or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, okay? Then I would eat my lunch, like for example, the chicken, broccoli, sweet potato or whatnot. Then I would, again, same thing, again here, all right? And then after that, for dinner, I would eat not the same thing. I would have a separate dinner, right? But usually dinners, I try to keep it a little lighter because I don't want to eat so much that I'm so stuffed, it's hard for me to go to sleep. So I usually eat, for example, dinner, you know, I might eat like a cheeseburger or something like that, right? Cheeseburger that I make at home, right? Or a chicken sandwich that I make at home, right? But again, you know, it's up to you guys. Sometimes I'll make a ham sandwich, right? And then there's a little bit of a extra thing here right after dinner. And usually for me, since I wake up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to train, I have to go to sleep early. I'm not an early bird. I'm a night owl. I usually like to sleep late at night. But for me, I developed a schedule where I wake up early in the morning because I got to beat traffic to go to work. That traffic is no joke. So I developed a schedule where I have to go to sleep 8 p.m., which to this day, I'll be sleeping like at 9:30. But sometimes, you know, after a while, when you get into a routine, your body will start going to sleep because you'll be shutting down because you're so tired. All right. So before my bedtime, I would eat Greek yogurt. Right? Maybe 1 cup with honey. Okay. So after my dinner, whatever it may be, in maybe 30 minutes or so before I go to sleep, I'll take my Greek yogurt, a cup with some honey, mix it up. Because the Greek yogurt is plain. I don't put no sugar or anything in there. I use honey as my sweetener. And then after that, I'll take my magnesium pills, right? Because that helps with muscle relaxation and recovery. And I'll get more into those later on as well. But that's important. But for right now, just get accustomed to understanding, you know, the trio, you know, as far as what you need to do consistently, right? And then understanding the 3 things, you know, with your food that you're going to eat, which is your fuel, which is what your body needs to work out. Okay. So that pretty much, you know, wraps this whole idea of how, at least for me, how I'm making that progress. Okay. I know it works. And the reason why I know it works, and as you guys could probably see, I got some size, right? And I put that size on. It didn't happen right away, but it took about a year. It took about a year of consistent training. And there will be a time where, as you consistently train like this, there's going to be a period where you will start to grow pretty fast, right? And then over time, you'll slow down and hit different little plateaus, and then you make adjustments and you grow and get better from there. But the consistency is really, really important because it takes roughly 60 to 90 days of consistency to actually even have any noticeable changes in your body, right? And what happens is if you are not consistent with those 3 things that we talked about, your body's just not going to grow. Of course, you're not going to make the gains. You may see something here and there, but not a significant difference, right? So just keep that in mind and really, really stick to it. Don't get distracted. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. You know, it's those science bros, you know, the science gym guys, you know, talking about all this scientific stuff. Yeah, those are great if you want to get into all of that. But if your goal is to get big and you want to get bigger, focus on the 3 things that I talked about. If you have any questions, put them on the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. If you already know what to do, great, keep going. Share your stuff, you know, share any ideas or advice that you want to share with me and everyone else that's watching the video, because I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but I felt like I wanted to kind of like go into pretty much the basics, and just kind of tell the beginner guy or the skinny guy, like, look, you can get big. You just got to do it consistently, and you just got to make sure you know what you're doing with intention. Because if you just going into the gym thinking, oh, I'm gonna just go in there, pump some weights and go home, you're not gonna get anywhere with that, right? You have to know what you're doing, and you have to do it consistently, okay? So until next time, guys, appreciate it. Check out my other videos. This is like my first video. I'm gonna have a lot more videos coming. I have some training videos, some routines and things that I'm working on. So until then, see you guys next time in the next video. Put on that game, man. Put that size.